In this video, I am going to show you how to configure Visual Studio Code in a way that it can use Clang as the compiler to build C++ 20 applications. Let's hop over to Visual Studio Code and show you how to do that. And before we even do that, let me show you the folder we will be using. If we cd into cpp project and ls to show the content, we will see a folder named 6 configure VS Code Clang. This is an empty folder we will be using to set up our things here. So let's hop over to Visual Studio Code because I already have it opened in my Linux machine here. And I can go to File and Open Folder. And I can hop back, or I can even say Configure VS Code for Clang because that's what I want here. I am going to hit OK. And this is going to reopen Visual Studio Code in the folder. You can see that the folder is empty. It doesn't contain any files. Let's create a file that we would like to build with C++. To do that, you hit the plus button that says New File here. If you do that, you will see a window pop up in which you can type. We are going to type in main.cpp as the name of the file. And I am going to hop over to my browser to steal the code that I would like to build with our Clang compiler. Don't worry about the content of this file because we will have all the time in the world to learn about all these things about C++. The main purpose of this is to let your compiler build this in C++ 20 mode to make sure the compiler is working. And I have shared the link to this file as a resource to this lecture. So you can click on that and get the code here, copy it like I am doing here, and bring that back in Visual Studio Code and paste it. Now that we have the code we would like to build it, we have to set up a task to build with Clang. To set up the task, you come to terminal here and go down and say configure tasks. And I should say that for this to work, you should have the Visual Studio Code extension for C++ installed. Once we do that, we will have a bunch of options for compilers we could use to build. I am going to choose one that says user bin Clang++ -12 here, the one I have highlighted here. So let's do that so that you can see that. Configure tasks, and we're going to choose the task that we want to configure. And when we do that, two things are going to happen. One is that a tab is going to open up in Visual Studio Code that says tasks.json. And another is that a folder is going to be created in our left tab here, or window, I should say. And the folder name is going to be .vscode. And our tasks.json file is going to be living under that folder. This is something you should notice. This is a file that is going to contain instructions on how Visual Studio Code is going to build your C++ code. For example, which compiler it is going to use and how exactly it is going to be using that compiler. In this case, we have instructions to tell Visual Studio Code to build with Clang. You can see that through the command line here. And to tell the compiler to build in C++ 20 mode, we are going to steal instructions in a task.json file I am going to share as a resource to this lecture here. So again, you can come here and copy this section here, these 5 lines. You are going to copy them and bring them back inside Visual Studio Code and paste them right here. So let's take out whatever is inside our args section here, and we will paste in what we got from GitHub. This is a set of instructions that tell Visual Studio Code how it is going to use our Clang compiler. It is going to build in C++ 20 mode, and it is going to build everything in our folder here that has an extension of CPP. It's going to build everything that has the CPP extension, and the output of the build is going to be a file named rooster. We want to take out the .exe thing here, and we want to change the separators here to be in Linux style. And now we have the thing we wanted. Some of you are going to be asking, why are we copying from here? I am doing that to avoid typos because many students have reported typos here. They were typing the things, for example, they would forget the dash here, and that would cause problems. So if you just copy this from GitHub and paste it in here, you are going to be avoiding those typos. Once you have this, the other thing we want to do is to change the label here to say build with Clang. Let's do that. And we have our setup done. Once we have this, we can close the tasks.json file and come back to our main CPP file. If it is not open up, you can just double click on it. It is going to open up. And to build with our compiler that we just set up, you come to terminal and say run task. If you do that, you see something pop up saying build with Clang. If we click on it, this is going to kick off the process to build with Clang. And if we wait a minute, we should see a message saying build finished successfully. And we are going to notice a new file created named rooster. This is the output binary. We can run it here by hitting enter and creating a new terminal window. And in this terminal window, we can run rooster. If we do that, we will see value 3 printed. And if you see this message here, you know that your compiler is working in C++20 mode, and this is what we want. The last thing I want you to do is to get rid of these squiggly lines, and these are here because Visual Studio Code doesn't know how to understand the C++20 code that we have running here. So to change this, we need to tell Visual Studio Code that this is C++20 code, and we do that by coming to View, Command Palette, and choosing C++ Edit Configuration UI here. If you don't see that right away, you can do C++, you can type this, and it is going to pop up somewhere. You're going to click on this, and this is going to contain instructions on how Visual Studio Code is going to understand the code you have running in your editor here. We want to go all the way to the bottom where it says C++ standard, just right here. And once you are here, you are going to select C++20 as the standard. You are going to close this, and the problem is going to go away, and we have Visual Studio Code configured to use our C and C++ compiler, which is Clang, and this is really cool. One thing you should really keep in mind is that our configuration has created a folder named .vs code. Now this folder contains two files, the tasks.json file, which contains which compiler we're going to use, how exactly are we going to be using that compiler. We also have a cpp properties.json file, which contains the settings, for example, for IntelliSense that we just set up. If we go in here and open that up, we can see that this is for Linux. It is going to be using the Clang compiler, and we want the C++ standard to be C++20 for IntelliSense, and this is really cool. You have this here, and you want to keep track of this .vs code folder because we are going to be reusing this a lot. This is really all I had to share in this lecture. I am going to stop here in this one. We are going to head over in the next lecture and show you how you can set up a template project that uses all the compilers that we just set up, be it GCC or Clang. And we want an easier way to switch between these compilers, and I will show you how to set that up in the next lecture. So go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.